doctors, movies.
Hey everyone, okay, we're going to be talking about megawatts, which is a lot different than the rest of the conversation here. A lot of people here are talking about SQL, they're talking about coding, development. We're going to talk about megawatts in the pipeline. If you look around, you see these lights on. The reason they're on is because there's a lot of nat gas or coal or some other form of renewable energy powering this facility. Well, Bitcoin mining and now AI HPC is also really entering the crypto conversation in a way that wasn't that interesting maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, unless you really were in the weeds. But now Bitcoin miners are actually having a huge impact on not only the grid, but also on the political climate during a presidential election. So we're going to go through just 5 slides in like 8 minutes that we got left here, and then we're going to have an awesome panel come up and talk about megawatts. Again, a lot different than cryptocurrency. Megawatts is a little bit different. So we'll start off looking at this first chart. This shows year-to-date average stock price change for a select few Bitcoin miners that are publicly listed. So if you don't pay attention to the Bitcoin mining landscape, and a lot of people don't because it's boring compared to number go up and token go up, we do have some crypto companies, actually a lot of crypto companies that are publicly listed. They just happen to mine Bitcoin. And a lot of them are in NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, or in the TSX, or over in Germany. We are looking here at some of the bigger ones: Riot, Marathon, Core Scientific, CleanSpark, Irene, Hut 8, Bitfarms, Hive, BitDigital, TeraWulf, BitDeer, and Cypher. So this makes up a large portion of the total market cap of Bitcoin mining stocks. And you'll notice, as we make so evident here, if you mentioned AI HPC somewhere in a press release, your stock went up quite a bit. If you said, no, we're going to stick with Bitcoin mining, we're here for the orange coin, we're all about privacy, we're all about cryptocurrency, nothing else, well, you didn't do as well. So what does that lead us to understand about Bitcoin mining in the landscape right now? We're going to look at this chart really quick before going into the AI HPC conversation a little bit more. This is year over year and quarter over quarter revenue for Bitcoin miners, okay? So this is basically, just think of, I'm a Bitcoin miner, I plug in my S9, I make this much Bitcoin, I convert it into USD, how much do I make every year? And that's about it. The next slide, we will show some diversification in revenue. But for here, just think, I'm a Bitcoin miner, I make X amount per year mining Bitcoin. What you'll notice is that things got really bad after April of this year because of the Bitcoin halving, where we saw a drop in the amount of revenue that a Bitcoin miner could make because of the decrease in the Coinbase reward for Bitcoin. So if you don't pay attention to Bitcoin too much, basically we went from 6.25 Bitcoin blocks reward per Bitcoin rewards per block to 3.125. And someone can fact check me if I got the decimals wrong in there, but basically we saw a 50% reduction. And for Bitcoin miners, that means an immediate 50% reduction in revenue, regardless of your costs, regardless of how great your pitch deck is or your slides or how great your stock is doing. Your revenue goes down no matter what, 50% every 4 years. And so for these Bitcoin miners, you're looking at a large drop in revenue, and you're publicly listed. What are you going to do about that? I mean, we can bake in some of these things, and analysts can talk to investors beforehand, and you can know about it. But if you're a Core Scientific and you drop 40 million in revenue over 1 quarter, that's not going to be as attractive to investors. Okay, so let's look at different business segments. This is where we kind of get into the conversation of, hey, I don't like the fact that my revenue dropped. Let's go talk and figure out another way to energize these megawatts that we have under deployment. Core Scientific, we just noted 40 million drop in revenue over 1 quarter. But what do you see them doing? They're growing their HPC. Most notably, Core Scientific had a huge deal with CoreWeave, a former Ethereum miner that's now gone all in on AI and HPC. This last quarter, they announced a huge deal to secure about $12 billion in future revenue for AI HPC. These metrics, maybe we're making them up a little bit because who knows how big AI is going to be. But at the end of the day, you can say that these megawatts are online. Core Scientific has about 500 plus or minus megawatts under capacity. And I bet you in a year's time from now, that blue on the Core Scientific bar is going to be a lot smaller compared to the HPC in yellow. Another thing I want to point out is CleanSpark. CleanSpark is going all in on Bitcoin mining. Against all the other large market cap Bitcoin miners out there, they've decided we're sticking with Bitcoin. Why is that? Well, I mean, if you go talk to Matt Schultz or Zach Bradford or anyone who works at CleanSpark, they'll tell you it's almost purely ideological. And so Bitcoin miners, that is a big part of why they mine Bitcoin. They like the orange coin and they care about it. For some of these other ones, like Core Scientific, if you go talk to Adam Sullivan, the CEO there, he's been there since they did the Chapter 11 reshuffling over the last few years. He'll tell you that he's trying to monetize the megawatts that they already have under capacity. And so there's different ways to do it. There's different ways to monetize these megawatts. The thing is, you just have to make money off of them. Okay, these other ones are also very interesting. We'll come back to Bitdeer in a second. Just notice that they have a very large hosted part of their business. Hosting is basically, I am a Bitcoin miner. I have this facility, but I'm going to have other people put these Antminers or these boxes on shelves. They can mine the Bitcoin, but I get a set rent per month. You're basically a landlord, but for Bitcoin mining. Okay, we got 2 minutes, 30 seconds left before our panel. These are the 4 Bitcoin miners that are actually really doing stuff with AI HPC. So if you go back to the beginning here, these are the people who are doing AI HPC and also had a nice press release about it. These are the people I would consider actually doing stuff, AI HPC and mining Bitcoin. Bit Digital is notable because a year ago, October 2023, they decided to rent out some data centers in Iceland, and they've made a lot of revenue on top of that because they were forward-looking before a lot of this ChatGPT stuff kind of took off. These other guys, they're getting there, right? So we see Core Scientific again. It costs a lot of money to convert those Bitcoin mining megawatts into AI HPC megawatts, and they're paying the cost. Now, there's some ways to figure that out and make it work, but that's just notable. Hut 8 and Hive are also 2 longer-term Bitcoin miners. Hive is the earliest listed Bitcoin miner. They've always had a component of some sort of GPU mining, and they're slowly converting those into AI HPC. Okay, we're going to go to our last topic here. We're going to skip this one, even though it's interesting. And we're going to talk about debt. If you paid attention to Bitcoin mining last cycle, 2020, 21, what you'll notice is a lot of Bitcoin miners made a lot of money. What happened in 22? A lot of people lost their shirts and they were no longer attending crypto conferences. They are in different occupations. Now, why is that? Because that scary red thing on the side, which is total debt. When you're a Bitcoin miner or you're an AI HPC, debt kills you, but debt also allows you to grow really fast. A lot of these companies that got to sizable amounts is because they did stuff with their treasury that was innovative, interesting, or extremely risky. CleanSpark decided to sell all their Bitcoin at the end of last cycle at the top. That allowed them to grow out their megawatt capacity far faster than anyone else. Some of these other Bitcoin miners, not as much. So 10 seconds left. If you're interested in this topic, pay attention to debt, but also pay attention to who is diversifying their revenue, and think about the ideology of mining Bitcoin itself as well. Okay, we're going to close out that.